Batman has been adapted into hundreds of hours of TV shows and movies, but I think there's just one scene that shows us who Batman really is. And the weird thing is, Batman doesn't even appear in this scene. Welcome back, ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and let's talk about the most crucial scene in the entire Bat canon. The one scene that I think defines who Batman really is. And no, I'm not going to talk about the alley or the pearls. See, I think each version of Batman is defined by its own classic scene.
I'm Batman.
Swear to me!
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
I'm vengeance.
But my all-time favorite version of the character is from Batman the Animated Series, which spun off into the best Batman movie, Mask of the Phantasm. And this one scene of Bruce visiting his parents' grave is only 70 seconds long, but it tells you everything you need to know about why Bruce Wayne is helpless and why he must become Batman. But to explain the meaning of this scene, first let's dive into who Batman really is. Now, the character was created almost 100 years ago in an era that also gave us forgotten superheroes like the Ferret and Amazing Man. Batman has persisted for 86 years because there's aspects of this character that are just deeply embedded in our collective unconscious. Batman represents the night. He uses fear as a weapon, and humans have a primal fear of the dark. His appearance also calls to mind bat-like demons or Count Dracula, and he lives in a cave. So he has this connection to demons in the underworld that is just sort of built into our collective mythology. And there's other demonic elements here, like as I'll talk about in a bit, Batman works because the character is cursed to carry on a fight that he knows will never end. But the character is also a wealthy man, a benefactor, and this is something from fairy tales. Benevolent kings that live in high castles, or in this case, stately Wayne Manor. And of course, he was also inspired by pulp heroes of the day, like Superman, Zorro, and the Shadow, who by the way was another masked millionaire who fought crime by night. Batman combines these classic mythological aspects and adds a very relatable human motivation. His family was killed, and he wants justice. Everyone can relate to that in some way. We all have suffered some form of injustice and wish that we had the power to make things right. And when you're a kid, your worst nightmare is that something would happen to your parents. So Batman is popular because it taps into this universal wish fulfillment. We all wish that we could be an ordinary person who can will himself to the level of superheroes. In other words, Batman is a modern day Odysseus. Now, in the Odyssey, it was said that Odysseus was a man, quote, skilled in all means of contending. He doesn't have superpowers like Achilles, but he has trained himself to be the peak of what humans can achieve, much like Bruce Wayne. But Batman also has a deep character flaw that has stymied creators over the years. Batman is the real identity and Bruce Wayne is the mask. So that means that it's hard for us to relate to Bruce's personal life or even relate to him as a person. The life of Batman is filled with colorful rogues, detective stories, and ninjas. So the exploits of a billionaire playboy who has everything are just boring. In most Batman stories, Bruce Wayne stops being interesting as soon as his parents are shot because that's when Batman was born. Like Matt Reeves said, Bruce Wayne's real superpower is superhuman focus, and he decided that Bruce Wayne no longer mattered, only the mission. Now, Bruce has had love interests over the years, but the most interesting ones were always part of his Bat life, like Catwoman or Talia al Ghul. But Batman Mask of the Phantasm introduced a new character, Andrea Beaumont, and in one scene, this movie explains Batman better than any other media ever has or ever will. So Batman Mask of the Phantasm is a masterpiece, and it's still the greatest Batman movie. It's set in the same universe as Batman the Animated Series, which is also the perfect distillation of the character. It's set in a Gotham City that is modern, yet Art Deco, and sort of in the 1930s, and the movie goes all in, using the budget to expand the scope of the city and give Batman the operatic tone he deserves. This film is the culmination of everything that made the animated series great. All of these talented artists working with a huge budget and on a massive stage. And the titular Phantasm is an original villain created just for the movie. Now, it's presented as a dark mirror of Batman. It murders gangsters instead of bringing them to justice. Now, at first, everybody thinks the Phantasm is Batman because the movie is about this fine line that separates Batman from a murderer. You see, Bruce has to believe that his mission could one day end, that the system could take over for him. So that means he has to trust in the system. Unlike most Batman films, it is an actual detective story, and the Joker is a side character and not even the main villain. But most importantly, the movie also has a love interest that we actually care about, Andrea Beaumont. She was likely the inspiration for Rachel Dawes in the Nolan trilogy, but Rachel was always presented as this platonic best friend that Bruce could never actually be with. But in Mask of the Phantasm, we see young Bruce Wayne flat out fall in love with her. As she gets him to open up, we're really happy for Bruce because we've never seen him like this. He's hopeful and filled with joy.
By the way, Dad's been wanting to meet you.
Oh, I can meet him. great.
They first meet at the graveyard, where Andrea shows that she has an affinity for talking to her dead parent.
And if Daddy gets any more protective, he's going to build a moat around my bedroom.
So this is someone who can relate to Bruce's grief. But as their love life blossoms, Bruce also has trouble becoming a vigilante. His first mission almost gets him killed, and he obsesses over this failure.
They weren't afraid of me. I've got to strike fear in them from the start.
And then as he is obsessing over the plan, Andrea comes over to visit, and she does the impossible. She makes Batman laugh. Now, at this point, we expect this relationship to end tragically. After all, he's Batman, and Andrea is not in the modern-day storyline. And there's all this ominous foreshadowing throughout the movie, like they go to a World's Fair with an optimistic vision of the future, and later we see it devastated by time. And as they fall in love, Bruce actually fights against his feelings.
What the heck am I doing, Alfred? This is part of the plan.
And this almost brings us to the most crucial Batman scene, but you have to understand the setup. While they're on a date, Bruce witnesses a robbery and tries to help. And he starts off doing great. He's kicking ass until he's distracted by Andrea.
Oh, thank God you're all right. I was so frightened.
Andrea, please.
Later that night, he tries to focus to create a costume, and he realizes
It's got to be one or the other. I can't have it both ways.
And I believe this is the first time we actually hear Bruce speak in his Batman voice, as he refuses to talk to Andrea.
I just don't know.
And this brings us to the most crucial Batman scene ever, the graveyard. So the graveyard has deep symbolism in this movie. It's where the Phantasm kills its first gangster on its quest for vengeance, tying the cemetery to not being able to let go of your grief. And Bruce visits this grave 3 times. The first and third visits are also direct mirrors of one another visually. The earlier one is set during the day, when we see a younger and more optimistic Bruce Wayne who is yet to begin his mission. And this is when he meets Andrea, who is talking to her mother and acting as if she can hear her answer back.
Mom doesn't have much to say today.
The daytime setting makes this a bright, optimistic scene, and it also inspires Bruce to talk to his parents later on. Now, earlier in the movie, Bruce looks up at his parents' portrait, which then ripples to his life before Batman and laying 2 roses on their tombstone. And when he revisits the grave later on, at nighttime, the framing is exactly the same. Notice the height of the grave. It looms over him like the memory of his parents. When he looks up at this monument, he's no longer a grown man, he's a little boy looking up at his mother and father. But this scene reveals that it's not just their memory that looms over him, it's the promise that he made to his parents in the alley. He swore that no child would ever feel that pain again.
I don't want to let you down.
Now, this is not a promise the Waynes ever asked for. If they were alive long enough, Thomas and Martha Wayne would have likely told Bruce to not spend his life focused on their deaths, and instead to live a life of joy, the life that he has found with Andrea. Now, I should also note that Bruce got the idea to communicate with his parents' graves from Andrea and their first meeting. Andrea acts as if she can hear her parents' answer, and Bruce wants the same feeling. He wants to know what his parents would say to him. But actually, he is imagining that his parents are holding him to this promise, because this is the last vestige of their memory that keeps them alive. As long as he believes that his mom and dad expect him to avenge them, then he can pretend that they are still with him. As Andrea says,
The way I see it, the only one in this room controlled by his parents is you.
and this is why, in the present day, Batman's shadow looms over the gravesite. His quest for justice has overshadowed how Bruce's parents would have actually wanted him to live his life. And throughout this scene, when he's pleading with his mom and dad, he sounds like a little kid who's asking permission to go on a sleepover.
You can understand that, can't you?
See, children who suffer a traumatic event often become frozen at that emotional age. So here, Bruce is showing us that he is still a child who refuses to let go of his grief. And like a child, he tries to rationalize to get what he wants.
Look, I can give money to the city. They can hire more cops. Let someone else take the risk.
But of course, the grave does not answer. It is engulfed in shadow, showing how Bruce's pleas fall on deaf ears. His parents cannot be there to reaffirm his choices. And this is because Bruce is projecting his own desires onto an object. He is not talking to his parents, he is talking to himself. This is Bruce Wayne pleading with the Batman to set him free.
I need it to be different now.
All at once, this is no longer a grown man who has spent years traveling the world to become the greatest fighter on the planet. This is a little kid, knees soaked with his parents' blood. He's showing that he will always be that boy surrounded by grief and frozen in one moment in time.
No, I made a promise, but I didn't see this coming.
See, when young Bruce was in that alley, his privileged world no longer made sense, so he had to make this promise to restore order to his universe. If he can do something good, then maybe all this meant something. The lesson these parents taught him, to quote a great line from The Dark Knight Returns, is the world only makes sense when you force it to. That little boy could never imagine a world where he would again feel joy or warmth. He made that promise as a kind of devil's bargain. He cursed himself to live a life of obsession and misery, which is why this line is so vital to the character of Batman.
I didn't count on being happy.
Now, that line was written by the great comic book writer Marty Pasco, who distilled 80 years worth of history into just 6 words. In an interview with Vulture, Kevin Conroy opened up about his performance of that line. He said, "That was the time I realized fully that you can't fake Batman. You can't just make a deep, husky sound with your voice. You have to base it in the pain of his childhood each time or it doesn't sound right." When I finished recording it, there was a lot of silence in the studio. Now, after Bruce pleads with his parents, he finally gets an answer from Andrea.
Maybe they sent me.
The Waynes wanted Bruce to be happy, and his cursed existence and guilt are entirely self-imposed. This is the scene where Bruce shows that he really could walk away from Batman if Andrea hadn't abruptly left him.
Left with Dad. Too young. Need time. Forget about me.
And ironically, the reason Andrea left him was because gangsters killed her father. So, for the second time, violence intervened and drove Bruce away from real happiness. But also, think about what this scene is saying. Bruce dealt with his grief by avoiding it and making a promise to his parents that only the mission matters. He was in a dark place, and when you're young, you assume that whatever feelings you're having will last forever. But then as he grows older, he matures and sees a broader possibility of life for himself. He understands that there could have been another path of good works, of charity, of children, and happiness. But this scene shows us that Bruce Wayne never really gave himself the choice to be Batman or not. He does not wake up every night and decide to put on tights. He made this decision years ago, and he can never turn back from it. He is compelled to be Batman. He cannot stop being Batman. In the present day, we get our third grave scene where Batman sees Andrea, but this time he runs away.
Why? Is he scared of that lady?
Well, kind of. I mean, he avoids her because she's the only person who could drive him away from his calling. And now, for him, there's no turning back from being Batman. On our podcast, The Crossover Universe, we interviewed the great comic book writer Mark Waid, and he explained it best.
I mean, Batman doesn't have a choice because that is what compels him. I mean, if you take the Batman away from Bruce Wayne, there's nothing. I mean, Bruce Wayne is the disguise. You know, Bruce Wayne is the depending upon how you want to play him, he's either the industrialist or the billionaire fop or whatever. There's nothing to him.
Now, I say that Batman is not in this scene because Bruce visits the grave, not Batman. In this graveyard, you can see there was a tiny sliver of life left, a little bit of Bruce Wayne that was remaining here, a small piece of himself that would have been able to heal and move on. And to contrast this, think of Spider-Man. He's also motivated by guilt, but he has walked away from the hero's life in the past. Spider-Man makes a conscious decision to put on the tights and help people. Or, as Mark Waid explained, compare Batman to Superman.
Superman, he does have a choice, and luckily, and that is his greatest superpower, is he chooses to use his powers for selflessness.
You see, Spider-Man is still Peter Parker, and Superman is still Clark Kent, but there is no Bruce Wayne. He died with his parents. This scene shows us that there is only Batman. That's what I think the most crucial Batman scene ever is, but do you have any thoughts? Let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter, Blue Sky Threads, or in our free-to-join Discord server, and if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.